So last year, I got the new John Deere heavy-duty snowblower. It's all dusty because it's basically been sitting a year. I got it right at the end of winter time, and I don't think I ever actually made a video on it. I took a bunch of little videos, but I never did like an installation video. And I'm not really going to do one today, but I'm going to show you a few things up close so that if you're thinking of buying one, you can install it yourself. My dealer's an hour and a half away from me, and the instructions that came with it were terrible. The good thing about it, I got the 54-inch heavy-duty one, very expensive piece here. It comes with this A-frame type connection that I'll show you later. This part goes on the tractor. This part goes on the tractor on the front, and it basically makes a 3-point hitch type setup. Sorry for the terrible video. And so that forms a 3-point hitch type setup here on the front of the tractor. And then all that does is slip underneath into the grooves of this guy right here. And then you've got a pin that holds it together. And then you've got to hook the front shaft up to the mid PTO. So I'm going to show you a few things in no particular order. I'm just going to splice together a bunch of these little videos. And then this can help you maybe install it yourself. Even though, again, I'm not really going to explain everything. I'm just going to show you things up close. So, first things first, you have to take off your brush guard. This device won't work if you got your brush guard on. I've seen some people do some cutting into it to make it work. But I just want to show you the bolt pattern here. Right, you got the large bolts back here, and then there's a large bolt down here, and then these other ones are all kind of the same size, right? So that's what that looks like there. Show you on the inside, kind of where that's. Let's see if I can get that in there. Let me see if I can turn my light on my camera. Okay, much better. So there you go, how it bolts to the front. You can see the front of your frame, the black crossbar here, right here, okay? That is the front black bar that you have on the front of your tractor. This thing sits over it. And then it's exactly the same on this side, okay? With the exception of, you have these guys here. The tall one, I believe goes in the front. Although there's nothing in the instructions that explain that. There's a little spacer here, and that gets it basically just spaced away from your panels, which I have off because I'm doing something else with the Hydros Plus Turbo. And then you can see again the extra large bolt, the smaller ones, slightly larger one back here, and then all of these ones are the same. And so that's that. You're going to get this piece already with this connected to it. You're going to get a couple of these loose ones. The other one, I don't think it's the one that already came with it, with your tractor. Anyways, I have that one right there. You can put it, wherever works for you. Then you have this piece. This whole assembly comes as this separate piece here. You get these bearings, which is one plate on the front and then an exact same plate on the back. And it squeezes the bearing inside of it, okay? So these two plates go together. Actually, no, they're both on the front. You can see the two split sides here. So you're going to get these two plates. You're going to squeeze the bearing. I mounted it to the outside here, and then the secondary bearing is bolted to the outside of the back of this lower gizmo. And again, there's probably a few different places. You could have put this on the inside, but it just seemed like you could have took this whole thing and put it on the inside, but it seemed like the right way to do it was to get the spacing wider. And I figured for stability, although it doesn't really matter, you're going to have this bracket, but you're not really going to use it. I think it's for some other tractor, but I threw it on there anyways. I don't remember what it's for now because it's been a full year, but I have mine up kind of at an angle towards. Think of it as like about a 30-degree angle towards the passenger side, if you will, of the tractor. And it's funny to say, the right side of the tractor. But again, I don't think you're going to need that. And then you've got these bearings here. I believe they come pre-greased, But in the bearing, if you look on the outside of what I'm going to call the race, but I don't know if that's really what it's called, there is a little hole, and you can actually squirt some grease in there if you have the little needle type of greaser on your gun that you need for like doing that one PTO greaser right here in the front. Anyways, okay, so then this device here, this gizmo here actually has a spot for another bolt hole here. And I don't remember why, but there was a reason I didn't like that last year. And so I put these in kind of tight, and now it sits, but it just stays there, right? And I don't remember why exactly I did that. So, but the correct way theoretically is to put bolts through. You know what? That reminds me. I even made... Okay, you must need to take this apart. Again, I am sorry for this video. I actually made this pin out of like a tent stake or something. I drilled it, and I put this, cotter pin through it. And then this goes through that. And then that way I can just easily pull it out and lower this. But again, I don't exactly remember why I did that. As I install this again this year, I'm sure remember all those things, but I just want to give you a close-up before I get it all put together so you can figure out, what you want to do. So I think that's about it for now. Here's the shaft. Obviously this end connects to your mid PTO. I want to show you something about this real quick. If you push this in, well, I can't do it with one hand. Hold on. Okay, got my wife here to help me. So this collar, there's a little ball bearing in there. I don't know if you can see that or not, but there is. And if you take this collar and push it back and rotate it, it will stay back. Then you can slide this onto your mid PTO shaft, and then when you're ready to lock it in, just twist it and it locks. And so that's not something that you'll find in the instructions. You can just push it back, hold it, shove it on, and then fight with it. But if you need both hands, you just push it, twist it, and it locks. See how it's locked back? And then if I twist this, it just pops forward. All right, so hit this. We're going to start getting this shaft underneath here. This is actually a bit of a pain. And you got to line up both bearings pretty close because it doesn't have any tolerances, or the tolerances are really tight. I may not be able to do this very easily. Let's see. All right. This is the part of the video that if you want to fast forward, you won't hurt my feelings. Okay, I got it through the first bearing. Now, getting it through the second bearing, I may have to do from the front because I cannot see it. Well, let's see. Let's get under here. Yeah, you can film from the front if you want.
Okay.
Okay. So what I'm doing here is having to spin the bearing to line everything up. But it's difficult to tell. Let's see. Okay, that needs to go more. Okay, got it. Okay. So it goes all the way through like that. One thing I learned last year is this assembly, you want to leave it, see how it's loose right now? You want to leave those bolts loose to have play, otherwise it will be very, very difficult to get in. So that's a little hack for it, is just don't fully tighten these bolts. Can you see the bolts? Don't fully tighten these bolts here and over here, right, that hold this assembly until you get this through the front. Okay, now back. Okay, so again, I'm going to take this collar, I'm going to twist it, lock it, and then I'm going to work it on, work it onto the mid PTO shaft. It's on, twist the collar, it locked, and now everything is on. And now what I'll be able to do is go back and tighten those bolts on this front of the tractor. All right, so that's how much this shaft sticks through. That's the only thing I wanted to show you. That's really all you need for the PTO to be able to lock on, because it really locks on in this middle section. So if you were to put these bearings in the back, you would get actually a little bit more maybe exposed spline, but it's really just not necessary because the PTO shaft just doesn't go on that far. So I'm going to pause it, go ahead and tighten these 4 bolts. 1, 2, 3, 4. That's going to lock this thing on. And then the next step will be putting on the 3-point A-frame. All right. So I remember now, as I'm about to install the 3-point accessory, why I made this thing flip up and down. It's because you cannot install this between here with this thing up, and it's a pain to take the bolts on and off. So I just locked in the bottom bolts, made it so you can pull it down, and then this guy here goes up here. All right. Then there's a giant pin right here that goes through this side here. And it is heavy. All right. And it locks in. Let me grab my mallet. All right. There's a little notch right here on this side. See that little notch right there? And it's got the pin locks in there. Doesn't always go nice and easy, so I hit it with a mallet. Then you just put your standard cotter pin through here, which I'm sure I have one somewhere. I'll deal with that in a minute. And I may regret what I just did because now I've got, let's see, my hydraulic cylinder. I twist it in position. Let's see if I can actually get this on. I may have had to put this on. You do. Okay. All right. Well, lesson learned, because again, I haven't done this since last year and I forgot about that. So I'm going to pull this pin out. Again, let this thing drop. Maybe I can brace it on my knees here. It is not easy to get that in and out. Okay. So now you get to learn. You're not seeing it on camera probably, but I'm fighting to get this pin out again. The very end is difficult because it's actually got a little lip on the very end. Okay, so step one to this is actually hang the hydraulic cylinder first. The good thing about that is it makes this whole thing easier to manipulate. And then you can put it there. And then we can lock this pin in. And I'm just going to tap it in with my mallet until we get past that little lip. You got to line up the notch. Once you line up the notch, then you can tap this. There we go. And now it's in. So then you got your hydraulic lines here. And they just feed into this guy. And then, where is, oh.
The pin?
Well,
right
that's
here.
not good. I feel like this metal thing was supposed to be inside the cylinder and it popped out because there's now no longer a hole to put that in. So I'm going to pause the video, look into that, and then if that is the case, I'll explain what happened. Okay, so sure enough, there's a little sleeve inside the cylinder that as I slid it on, it just came out. So I just tapped it back in. Maybe it was just a little dirty and grippy. And I'm going to try to be a little bit more gentle so I don't knock that sleeve out this time. There we go. Okay. Now, I've got my pin, lock it in, we're good to go. Pull this thing up here, let it fall in place. Yeah, just having to do it 3 times while you're learning, I guess is a good way to get fast at it at least. All right, tap it in with the mallet. Because it does not want to play nice. And it's starting to loosen up a little bit again. That was much easier this time. Okay. Put a little pin here through and your 3-point attachment is on. And the only thing it does is go up and down. All right, so now it's just time to connect the 3-point assembly onto the 3-point arms. This is the A-frame assembly, which is used specifically for the snowblower. I don't know what other attachments it may work with. I imagine each attachment might have its own type of mount, but either way, they all work with these 3-point arms. So we'll put the hitch in, hitch pin, and this is going to be very familiar to you if you've done anything with the back of your tractor. It's pretty much the same concept. Let's put those pins in, and then you've got your top link. Now this, they give you this pin here, and then there's a little hole down here. It's pretty obvious to lock it in the right way. And then one final pin. And from a tractor perspective, hooking up your hydraulics is the same as your loader, so I'm not really going to cover that, except for I may cover, once I remember exactly which hose goes where, because it wasn't anywhere in the instructions and I had it configured a few times to get it all right. But that's basically it. And then you can adjust the angle that you're going to want your snowblower at by adjusting your top link so that everything sits level. And then when I'm driving into it here in a second, you'll drive it in. You'll take this pin out here. Don't remove this. This is kind of a one-time thing. You remove this pin. This comes out like this. You drive your tractor in. You pick it up. Drop this pin in. It goes right through the top of this A-frame assembly. There's actually a little hole in the bottom that this feeds through. And then when you put that pin in, it keeps it from being able to come out. And so that's how that works. So for now, well, I guess I'm just going to leave it out for now. And then the last thing you do is you hook up your PTO shaft, and this works the same as the mid or rear PTO shafts that you're used to. A little collar, you can press it, but there's no twisting it to lock it this time. So you just press it, slide it on, and it locks in place. Functions the same as any other PTO. I will tell you, there's like a shear bolt in there, and so right there, and that is a pain to get to. If you break one, you got to feed it in. You have the right tools. So if you're going to be out snow blowing, if you think you might break this, it's probably a good idea to have the right tools with you, because it's going to be special, smaller tools. You're not going to get big ratchets and wrenches and stuff like that in there. So just something to know. There's no easy way to get to that particular shear pin. All right, so I'll pause this for now, and then I'll show you a little bit more about the blower once I get it all hooked up. All right, just to help you out, these are the connections from the 3-point, from the front 3-point. One of them has this valve which you can lock, and that's used to be able to lock the 3-point up. You'll probably never use it. Honestly, this is a pain because nothing ever fits just right the way all the twists are. But just so you know, this one here with this attachment goes on the top outside. The other one from the 3-point goes right underneath it. And anyways, I went ahead to use blue paint to mark rather than those cap colors, because the ones that come on the 3-point don't match whatever you already have for John Deere for the loader, and then the ones that come on the blower don't match either. So you almost have to come up with your own color scheme that synchronizes everything to make it easy to flip your bucket and your loader, and your 3-point assembly on. So I just want to show you that to help somebody out. Now we are going to, I'm going to show you what it looks like when you pick up the snowblower. One hard thing is you can't see over the front to see that A-frame, but because I bypassed the seat safety lever, I can actually stand up and do it. Otherwise, good luck. Up, slide forward, and down. And I got it. And then all you do is take this pin right here, put that through, reach underneath here, and just find whichever hole it sticks out. There's a solid plate right in here, so if we put that through, it doesn't come out. It's a little loose, but that's okay. You can tighten this up if you want. but it generally just comes unloose again, or comes loose again, so I don't really worry about it. There is a cotter pin that you put in this bolt that keeps this butterfly nut from coming out completely. And that's it. Beyond that, you do your standard 3-point adjustments with your top link, and then we have to, I guess I'll go ahead and show you hooking into the PTO shaft. You got this nifty little hanger right here when you're assembling it that it'll hold your PTO shaft when you're picking it all up, or if you want it off the ground, but then you slide it to the side when you're going to use it. So other than that, come down here, reach underneath, let's see, pull that collar back. Well, it's spinning too freely, so it's being a pain. Let me see if I can hold it. Well, there it is. Put it all the way on. Let that collar go loose. I have to turn the flashlight back on. All right, so put it all the way on. After pulling the collar back, get it all the way forward, and then you can pull it back, and it will lock into place. And then you'll see that collar go back out. To remove it, you'll pull that collar, and it comes right off. So again, once you get it on, just push it about as far as it'll go, and then pull it back, and it will lock into place. And then that's it. The other thing I've got to do is hook up the hydraulic hoses from the blower. And these are going to go to your left and right function. There's a cylinder underneath here. I don't know if you can see, if you can shoot underneath enough to see the hydraulic cylinder. You probably want to back up a little bit. That's too close. Anyways, that cylinder opens and closes, and all it does is move a cable in and out, and then this cable is wrapped around the chute in a way that is covered in the instructions, albeit not very clearly, but you can figure that one out from the instructions. And then that moves your chute left and right. So I'm going to go ahead and pause, and I'm going to hook these up. Okay, it is all hooked up. One thing about the blower is the extra shear pins for the propeller thing in the front are right here. Shear bolts is what they are. I zip tied a rubber spacer under here last year, and I don't remember why I did that or what that's for. So that's interesting. I guess I'll have to try to remember why I did that. And then your shear bolts. I guess there's one on your impeller in the back. And then you've got them. Well, actually, those aren't it. Those are pins. Your shear bolts are these guys right here, right? So when this breaks, the black can spin independent from this outer piece, and the shaft here comes in. It actually spins the silver shaft down the middle of this, so it goes all the way through and spins this. This collar attaches it, right? And this collar is attached to this, so this is what's spinning. This is what's driving the power. This is just receiving all the power, blowing and catching the snow. So when this snaps, that's where you'll replace. So have the appropriate tools with you, and gloves and whatever you need. Now, I had a problem because all of my plowing is on gravel, and the feet that come with it are these narrow feet, and they're just not sufficient. So I bought these trailer jack feet from Harbor Freight. I used my grinder and I cut off the round piece that was here in the middle, and then I welded them here. And I've never tested them yet because I just finished doing that last week. But that's to help me float over the gravel, and you can see they're a lot wider than the original feet. And so we'll see if that works. And then I put everything up as high as I possibly could. And so you can kind of see the gap here. It's a full 2 fingers that can get underneath the blade. So even if these sink in a little bit, I'm hoping this is not going to catch any gravel. At least not much. And so that's the deal. Now, last year I did one test, and I'm happy with this thing. This thing is pretty thick steel. Whoops. But you should know that I caught a big rock, and it sheared the bolts as it's supposed to on this side, but not before it actually broke the weld right here. Sorry, I can't get it to focus. Okay, there we go. So I ended up bending, you can see kind of how warped it is. I had to kind of bend it back into place and then weld it with, you know, that's what the original welds look like. That's what mine looks like. Good enough. And that was kind of disappointing, a little disturbing, but you know, whatever. I guess it's not everything proof. Now, granted, I was shoving it into ice piles and it picked up a boulder that jammed in here. So it was a huge boulder. So that's not good. This impeller, I love it. I think it's huge. It's foolproof. It is steel. This front edge here is a little worn down, probably from catching some of that gravel and stuff from last year, just for my testing. I mean, I tested it for like 2 days, and it'll pick up and throw some snow. I probably need to go ahead and re-grease that greaser there in the back. It looks actually greased. And but that's what you got there, in case you're wondering what it looks like on the inside. Here's your gearbox. Probably should check and make sure I have oil in my gearbox before I use this. To assemble it, there's nothing really to do in there. You bolt on these guards. Pretty straightforward. You bolt on the feet. The hard part is figuring out this cable assembly, which I'm not going to show you in a video. It is in the instructions, so just spend some time looking at that. And hit me up if you do lose your instructions. There's a cover. This comes off. You can see the cable assembly. One cable I think is longer than the other, and it wraps around in a very certain way. And then they kind of come underneath here and loop around. And you tighten one, and then you put the other one on, right? And you do that while the chute is facing all the way towards the left, right? And so I guess some of that blew some of that paint off. But that's okay. And then there's an optional accessory you can buy, and then there are several aftermarket ones where you can add a cylinder right here. It's electric, I believe. And yeah, it's electric, and it'll give you an electric chute actuation for this. I don't know. I live out in rural areas. I don't think I'm going to care that much. But I'll let you guys know if I decide that that's a must-have. It is definitely nice to have. All right, final configuration of the hydraulics. This one, again, this is just terribly designed, but I guess this blower is really for those heavy-duty front, kind of like, they look almost like commercial riding mowers, but they use them for cities and stuff like that. So that blower is commercial. Anyways, I ended up routing this. This is the one from the PTO. By the way, this is a pressure valve that you can turn one way or the other to speed up how fast it goes down. It only affects, I believe, going down. So if this thing is barely moving, you can just turn this a little bit and play with it till you get what you want. Anyways, that's the one that goes here. And this is the first one I install, and the best way I found was to do this big loop and come straight down and straight in with the off valve underneath. It kind of fits, and it's a pain. Or you can put it in sideways and then twist it. And then the other one that goes to the 3-point assembly, right? This is the other 3-point assembly that goes underneath it. I find that it's best to come out and around and underneath this way. Because then that frees up all the space you need to actually put your blower on and off. And so now let's see. The cable, the hose that goes, so what I'm going to call the opening cylinder hose, right? The shorter of the two, the one that's connected right here, right, is the one that goes on top. So if you can remember that, then that will help you get this right. Otherwise, you hook them up one way, do your left-right motion, see what happens, and then swap them. But if you want to get it right, then the top goes to the hose that is on the far left of the cylinder, right? So if you're looking in the front, you can't really see that cylinder. That's the outside one. This one goes on the bottom, inside bottom, and then this one goes inside top. When we're looking over here, you got outside, inside. So inside top, inside bottom. So that's it for the snowblower video. I hope that helps you. I'll do some other videos of actually using it later on.